I'm Annette Young and welcome to this very special edition of the 51% coming to you from New York. Just behind me is where US President Donald Trump lives when not based in the White House. The controversial new American leader and his policies on women have indeed angered feminists, but have they also breathed new life into the women's movement?
I think that women are going to step up, and I don't fear him. So,
in what way will women step up?
just like the statue being here and women coming together and trying to make a change and an impact against what he's doing and what he's trying to do.
Do you think Donald Trump is bad for women?
Oh yes, please. He's bad for everyone.
You should ask. It is bad. He is very bad. And the thing that bothers us is the fact that we can't do nothing about it.
I just think like whatever happens will be in God's will, and I can just trust His hands over that. And it'll be okay. Yeah.
I think the Women's March in Washington was very effective, and I think that people took notice, and we can't let that be a one-off. That has to continue to happen for the next 4 years.
Now, as a pertinent reminder of the need for more women on American company boards, an investment fund has installed this artwork of a tiny defiant girl standing in front of that iconic Wall Street statue of a charging bull. And as you can see, it's become one of New York's hottest attractions. If there was a place more renowned for brutal anti-female attitudes, it would be here on Wall Street. But some say in Trump's America, there's been a resurgence of misogyny, as this extract from a France 2 television documentary reveals.
Meet Gavin McInnes. The New York-based online talk show host is a hero among angry men.
Women tend to be more emotional than men. So, women, you should have the right to vote. But please, don't vote. You're terrible at it.
The 46-year-old has found his audience on a provocative website. Soon he will have his own radio station. His main selling point, his love for his country and firearms.
But I want you to... These are all Proud Boys.
Okay, great.
For the past year, McInnes has been the president of a club known as the Proud Boys.
Being a boy is important. I mean,
of course, we're proud of who we are, and we're basically going to stand up for each other.
It's more like you don't need to be shameful anymore. And when Donald Trump just makes a decision and does something, as long as it's within the bounds of the Constitution and the law, he doesn't have to consider every time, well, I'm a man, so how's this going to look? We already had 8 years of that.
There are about 30 Proud Boys in New York, and similar clubs are being founded across the country thanks to social media. McInnes' club has strict membership requirements, being a man, of course, but also to have it tattooed on your skin. For these self-proclaimed chauvinists, a woman's place is in the home.
We venerate the housewife, where feminists have made housewives feel like sellouts. You are an incredible contributor to society. You create lives and shape them. That's a gift.
Himself a father of 3, he has dinner with his family at 5:30 in the evening. His wife, a former publicist and consultant, quit her job after their eldest child was born to become a stay-at-home mom.
The rise of Donald Trump and populist politicians elsewhere is directly threatening women's rights across the globe. Joining me now is Professor Anne Marie Goetz, a former advisor to UN Women and now professor at the Centre for Global Affairs at New York University. Professor Goetz, thank you very much for joining us. Just how dangerous is Donald Trump when it comes to women's rights in America?
Extremely dangerous, because the rollback of women's rights is foundational to the agenda of this administration. But I think it's important to say, it's not just Donald Trump that's the problem. He's an opportunist, he's a sheer opportunist. There are people in his administration who are dedicated, in fact, to the rollback of women's rights. Even before they took office, his transition team, which was otherwise highly disorganized, took the trouble of writing to the State Department to ask who was working on women's rights and what exactly was the State Department doing on women's rights and how much money was being spent on it. So that clearly indicated a concern about this area. and a desire to actually start attacking it, which was among the first actions of the Trump administration.
So are we witnessing a resurgence in misogyny across this country?
There's no question that there is more permission for misogyny that's been given by significant political leaders like Trump. And this is something which is consistent across a number of new ethno-nationalist populist groups around the world. There is an attack on women's rights. And this is based partly in a fear about gender, actually, about gender difference, about sexual orientation, about the idea that there could be more than two genders. This triggers very serious reactions amongst people who feel that their kind of worldview is being shaken. But obviously, there's been a resurgence in misogyny around the world. What's so striking is that this has been considered for so long to be inappropriate, unacceptable, anti-modern. And what Trump's campaign did is he labeled this kind of misogyny as political correctness, thereby undermining the fact that it's actually got devastating, in fact, like life-threatening implications.
But a sizable chunk of white women actually voted for Donald Trump.
Yeah, that's true. Apparently 53% of white women voted for Trump. 54% of all women voted for Hillary Clinton, so she still won more women's votes than he did overall. But that statistic, the 53%, is very worrying. It's very confusing. It's baffling. It is part of sort of not any more latent misogyny in this country, a profound religious conservatism, especially in the center of this country. It's part of that, and it's also part of a fear by working class and middle class people, a fear of change, a fear of their loss of economic security, and so on.
But it appears, if anything, that Donald Trump has in fact given new life to the women's movement.
There is no doubt that the Trump phenomenon, as well as the rise of these kinds of misogynist strongmen leaders around the world, has certainly reinvigorated feminist resistance and feminist movements. So yes, there has been a resurgence. I would also say that this has been a very important moment of reckoning for the women's movement here in the US and around the world. How inclusive are we? There are perennial problems with including racial minorities, sexual minorities, but we also have to ask, how is it that 53% of white women found Trump's message more appealing than a message of equality and justice?
With the political spectrum across the world seeming to swing to the far right, and certainly with the popularity of Donald Trump here in America, you've written that the time has come for the UN to step up to the plate and fight for gender equality. Are they capable of doing that?
It's a good question. The UN has to spearhead a global feminist surge. The new Secretary General, Antonio Guterres, has so far, he's still in his first 100 days, has so far put women's rights at the top of his agenda. But you asked, is the UN capable of doing that? And the UN's capability on promoting women's rights is going to be damaged significantly if the Trump administration carries through on its threats of cutting funding. Internationally, the US is a very important leader in negotiating agreements and treaties on women's rights. It always has been from the foundation of the UN. It's always played a major role. Yes, there is the global gag rule and the Helms Amendment, which the US, allows the US not to support abortion services or even talk about abortion. And that, of course, has been strengthened and expanded, which is extremely dangerous. But in negotiations on women's rights, the US used to be relied on to defend women's rights. Now, I'm not sure that's going to be the case, and that could be very damaging.
Professor Goetz, we're going to have to leave it there. Thank you so much.
It's a pleasure.
In the last American election, black women voted massively against Donald Trump. In fact, 94% voted for Hillary Clinton instead. However, they say that their struggle isn't being recognised by white women. In fact, they're facing double discrimination on both grounds of colour and gender.
Every week, she takes to the streets to protest against social injustices that affect African Americans. Melina Abdullah is one of 3 women who founded the Black Lives Matter group in Los Angeles.
Who will give us power to win this
They see their activism as a revival of black feminism.
The ushering in of feminism, right, really was to speak to the most privileged group of women. We don't believe in moving from that space of privilege. We believe in empowering and lifting from the bottom.
In the United States, the unemployment rate among African American women is close to 10%. That's double the national average. Cam and China live in South Los Angeles. These 24-year-old twins expressed their feminist values through music. Their music and rap lyrics aim to empower African American women and provide a discordant note in the macho hip-hop industry.
You have other people saying, well, you're not marketable, you can't sell, you're too hard, you talk about too much real stuff. People don't want to hear the real raw side of you. They want to see the part where you know, you're not as dominant as the men. I'll make a way so I can kill for you, nigga.
Black feminism in the United States is also expressed through style, especially hairstyle, long a sensitive subject. In this salon, women no longer want extensions and straightened hair. Most clients here have returned to a natural look.
The freedom for women to be able to choose how they want to wear their hair. And, you know, we can't be told what to do with it or what is acceptable.
Nevertheless, the afro can still be risky.
And just interviewing for jobs and just feeling like it didn't look professional, or I wouldn't be able to get a job if I were to wear my hair out.
Old stereotypes can take generations to change, but the new generation of Afro-American feminists is determined to shake them off and make their voice for change heard loud and clear.
Don't touch my hair. And that's it for this special edition of the 51% coming to you from New York. If you'd like to comment on what you've just seen, you can head to our Facebook page, that of course being France24.51%, or do send us a tweet at _51%. Thanks for your feedback so far, and please do keep those comments coming in. So until our next show, bye for now.